What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. Alright soldiers, in today's video we're going to be going over the Set 9 Dragoncraft cards. So I know in Set 8 we got all the new Disdain stuff and all the new Dragoncraft cards that didn't really do too much, but we did get the Disdain deck, those upgrades that the deck needed, and it's really playable now. But going into Set 9, I wonder what Dragoncraft is going to hold for us. Alright, and without further ado, let's get into our first card. We have Jerva of Dragonic Male. It's a 5-cost 5/5. You can evolve from 1, and at the start of your end phase, deal 5 damage to each other follower on the field, and then draw a card. But when he comes into play, you discard your hand. So looking at this card, I think this is a pretty neat idea of a card. So I know Discard Dragon is looking at this card and kind of salivating because Conflagration was a nice card. I liked it. Dealing 5 to everything on the field and paying 5 is nice. But now we get a 5/5 body on the board, and we get to discard our hand, and then we get to proc our, if you discarded a card from Dracomancer's Rites, deal 2 damage to something, and then dealing 5 to the board, and then also drawing a card at the same time. And then you also get to evolve this follower. And speaking of evolving him, we have Jerva Evolve. So he is still a 5/5 evolve, but at the start of your end phase, deal 5 damage to each enemy follower on the field, and then draw a card. So of course, like I said, Discard Dragon is really looking at this card and salivating. Looking at this evolved form is really salivating too. So essentially, you discarded your whole entire hand, and if you have both Dragomancer's Rites and this card on the field, you're going to be doing forte damage by the end of this turn and also drawing a card. Alright, and next up we have Zenitra Dragon's Flame. So she's a 6-cost 3/4. When playing this card, put a card with Zenitra in its name from your field into its owner's cemetery. This card costs 3 less to play. While this card is on your field, your Wurmkin tokens have Storm. Fanfare, summon a dragon token, then draw X cards. X equals the number of Wurmkin tokens on your field. Well, if any of you are big Zenitra followers, then you should already know that our Zenitra is a 3-cost follower that will reduce this one into another 3-cost. But I think playing this Zenitra is going to be amazing because those dragons are going to be coming out with Storm. But looking at this Fanfare effect, it seems you're going to be replacing the 2 cards you're going to be using that very same turn if you're able to play both dragons out from the other Zenitra that you play. So at least drawing 2 cards to replace those 2 cards you played this very same turn is pretty worth. Alright, and next up we have Lindworm. So it's a 10-cost 10/10. You can evolve for 5 into a virtuous or iniquitous form. When it comes into play, recover X play points. X equals the number of Dragoncraft spells in your cemetery. Alright, so looking at this card, it doesn't look like there's a real way to cheat this out, but I guess the real cheat is when it is played, you get to recover those play points. So hopefully you have at least 5 of those spells in your cemetery, so you can go ahead and evolve Lindworm this very same turn. Alright, so looking at Virtuous Lindworm, so it's a 10/10, it has Ward, and at the start of your end phase, give your leader +6 defense and draw 3 cards. Alright, so I don't think this version of the Evolve is that bad, especially when you have to play in the back end sometimes, so having a 10/10 Ward is very good too, and at the start of your end phase, you get to heal 6 and draw 3 cards. Alright, and then we have the Iniquitous Lindworm, so it's still a 10/10, but this one has Storm and ignores Ward. So of course, we've all been in those Shadowverse Evolved games where we're like, okay, well I'm gonna ward up and hopefully I'm safe. Well, now Dragoncraft has a card that's gonna completely ignore ward, so you have to watch out for that as of Set 9. Alright, and next up we have Dragonplate Warrior. So it's a 5-cost 3/5, and during your turn, whenever you play a Dragoncraft spell, deal 2 damage to each enemy follower on the field. But when he comes into play, if Overflow is active for you, recover 2 play points. Alright, so this is a pretty neat card. So spending 5 for him is going to recover you 2 play points in those Overflow. You get 4 play points to play around with, so you can either do something like Serpent's Wrath or Blazing Breath, or if you need to draw a card and do a Dragon's Oracle is something that you can do too. I think there's a lot of compatibility that you can do with this, and then also dealing 2 damage to each follower on the field is very helpful. But quick reminder that this only works when it's on your turn, so make sure you use those quick spells on your turn if you need to, and then deal 2 damage to the board to go ahead and remove the rest of the board if you need to. Alright, next up we have Force of the Dragon Newt. So we have our first 2-cost quick spell here. You select enemy follower in the field and deal it 3 damage, draw a card, and then discard a card. Alright, so using Dragonplate Warrior as a good example here, so you get to recover those 2 play points in Overflow, you get to deal 3 damage to 1 follower, well actually a total of 5 damage to 1 follower, and then you get to deal 2 damage across the board, and then you also get to draw a card and discard a card. Alright, and next up we have Dragon Cleaver Roy. So he's a 3-cost 2/2. You can evolve for 1, but when he comes into play, you search your deck for a Dragoncraft spell that costs 2 play points. Reveal it and add to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Alright, so it looks like we have extra targets to help us ramp here. So if we don't already see Dragon Oracle, we can go ahead and put Dragon Cleaver in our deck if we need to go ahead and search out Dragon Oracle to go ahead and play it next turn. Yes, it's going to feel slow and feel bad to do this exact play, but every Dragoncraft game is not going to be perfect where we see Dragon Oracle on too. Alright, and looking at Roy Evolve, so he turns into a 3/3, and on Evolve you select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage, and if it's a Wormkin follower, deal 5 damage instead. Alright, so if you're going against the mirror match, or if there is a Wormkin follower in other classes, which I don't think there are, let me know in the comments below if there's actual Wormkin followers in like Abysscraft or Runecraft that I don't know about. But all that I know about is that there are Wormkin followers in Dragoncraft, so having a Dragonic Duelist that's going to be doing wonders for you in the mirror match is very good. Alright, but moving on, we have Gala of 2 Breaths, so it's a 4-cost 5/5. When it comes into play, you can spend 2 play points to select the enemy card on the field and destroy it. So if your opponent is playing a pesky amulet or a pesky card that is getting on your nerves for a total of 6 play points, you can go ahead and destroy something on the field and then have a 5/5. Alright, and next up we have Waters of the Orca, so it's a 1-cost spell. You summon a Megalorca token, and if Overflow is active for you, you summon 2 instead. So when being an Overflow, I think the total good play is you play the Neptune, you evolve her, you get the Megalorca token that has Storm, and then using this card too to give those extra 2 Megalorca tokens Storm is a very good play. Alright, and next up we have Heroic Dragon Slayer. So it's a 2-cost 1/2, you can evolve him for 1, but when he comes into play, if Overflow is active for you, give this follower +2 attack. Alright, so looking at this card at face value doesn't seem like too much, especially when playing this on turn 2. You just get a 1/2, it's not that crazy. But going into Overflow, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to have this as a 3/2, and then evolving it for that extra 2 attack damage stacked on top of the evolve is really going to help you swing into another follower for those on-evolve effects as well. And speaking of on-evolve effects, we have Heroic Dragon Slayer Evolve. So he turns into a 2/3, and then on evolve you select the enemy follower on the field and deal it X damage. X equals this follower's attack. So not only do you get a 4/3 as an evolved target, but you also get to do 4 damage to a follower while evolving this guy. And looking at the next card, we have Dragonclad Blade Master. So he's a 2-cost 3/2. You can activate to engage this card, select the enemy follower on the field, and deal it 3 damage. You can only activate if there are at least 3 Dragonic Duelist cards on your field. Alright, so it looks like with these small bodies, we're going to be able to spam out these cards very easily. So you saw the last Dragonic Duelist that we had, he's a 2-cost. If you're in Overflow, which you should be if you're playing Dragoncraft the right way, you can play these guys out pretty quickly. The other Dragonic Duelist got the +2 attack. You play this guy, and then there might be another Dragonic Duelist on the field, which might benefit you to go ahead and deal 3 damage to a follower. Alrighty, next up we have Drakewing Assassin, so it's a 3-cost 3/3. When it comes into play, you select the enemy follower on the field and deal it X damage. X equals the number of Dragoncraft spells in your cemetery. Alright, so it looks like all the times you're using spells to remove followers is going to help you. So if you're playing a spell-heavy deck, I think it's going to be very nice to rock this card as well too. So you can get a follower that's going to be dealing damage to the enemy follower for how many spells you've used this game. Alright, next up we have Twilight Dragoon Coda, so she's a 4-cost 1/1. When she comes into play, you summon a dragon token. Alright, a pretty cute card with some cute art, so if you want to summon a dragon token that's on the field, I think that's pretty nice too, especially if you're able to keep that Zenitra on the field, which I'm not sure if you're going to be able to because her stats aren't that big. But if she manages to survive, because, you know, in Dragoncraft, when you're playing your games, you get into some grindy matchups, I will tell you. Dragoncraft is those grindy matchups. So if you manage to being able to sneak this card out and having another dragon with Storm, I think it's a pretty good combo. But I don't know how practical that might actually be. Alrighty, and last but not least, we have Dragon's Hand Spurs. So it's his 2-cost spell. You select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage and draw a card. I'm not going to lie to you, soldiers. This card would have been nuts if it was quick. I am telling you, I'm glad they kind of balanced it out here, just being a 2-cost card you have to use in your turn. But man, this card would have been nuts if you would have been able to use it on your opponent's turn. Alrighty, and then we have our UR card. So this is the Jerva Evolve that does 5 damage to the enemy leader by the end phase, and you draw a card. And it's got that little waifu swap here. So I want to actually know on a deeper level, do these waifus actually have names instead of like the Jerva, like the different, like are these just different dimension cards that have an actual story or anything? If any of you know, let me know in the comments below, because I would like some insight on that, because Tartman got the little swap there, and I don't know if there's some actual lore behind that or not, but if there is some here, I would like to know, and if there's not, then I still don't mind the little waifu swap as a gender swap. I think it's pretty cool. I like the design of the card, but I'm not a huge Dragoncraft player, so if any of you Dragoncraft players that want this card or searching for it, I hope you pull it out of your boxes or whatnot. But alright soldiers, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me that you are watching these videos. Set 9 is on its way. It's coming very quickly. We only got one more week and then it'll be here by that next Friday. And speaking of Fridays, this next upcoming Friday, not tomorrow, but the next Friday after that, we're gonna have a special video for Shadowverse Evolve. So tell your friends that Sparta is going to have a very special event on Friday. Of course, I'm going to remind everyone on all the social posts that I usually do. We're gonna have a lot of fun this upcoming weekend making this video. I've tried doing it in the past, but it didn't really work out. But I got this new hardware after that brief hiatus I had to take to get this new equipment and make sure you guys can see these videos. But alright soldiers, make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do, what I got to do.